Hey everybody, it's Matt and Heather with the Joyful Family Podcast, and we're so excited you're joining us today.
Exactly, and we are starting, this is kind of part two of the last podcast, speaking life over your marriage, and I think there's some really interesting things that I've discovered that I want to share with you, but it's so important how we communicate, what we communicate, really shapes the landscape of our marriage, good, bad, and ugly.
Yeah, the life and death are really in the power of the tongue, and we have to learn how to control it so that we can live a joyful life, right?
Exactly, and something I wrote down before we started this podcast is that if you don't like your spouse's behavior, you have to ask yourself, does their behavior match your words? And so many times, we point the finger at the spouse, and we can be a big part of the problem. And something we also said is not just what you say, it's how you say it. And you can say, I love you, in the most sarcastically not nice tone and take really sweet words and make them not so sweet.
Yeah, like in parenting, whenever your kid says yes ma'am, but it's in the rudest, most disrespectful way possible. And though the words they said were what they should have said, but the attitude behind it was junk. And so then they get, in trouble anyway.
Yep. It's not what you say sometimes, how you say it, or actually it's what you say and how you say it.
Absolutely.
But looking at this, the Greek word for words, actually it says both, it means both word and container. To me, that's interesting because it says in Luke 6:5, a good man brings the good things out of the good stored up in his heart, and the evil man brings evil things out of the evil stored in his heart. So think about your words contain your heart, your feelings, your thoughts about someone. So whenever you're talking with your spouse, how you truly feel about them will come out. Now, we are really good about glossing over things. We can put on a pretty face. We can fake it. But whenever there's stress and there's pressure, when we're squeezed, just like a sponge, whatever's in a sponge, whenever you squeeze it, it comes out.
Yep.
And whenever there's conflict or tension or stress or something in your marriage that you're squeezed, the true thoughts you have about each other will come out.
Have you ever been in the middle of an argument and you start like going back and forth or whatever, and then all of a sudden you say something and you're like, whoa, where did that come from? I didn't even know that was still irritating me. But it came out in that moment of tension. It's happened to me. It's probably happened to everybody, and
it hasn't happened to me ever.
You're so full of it. Anyways, it has happened to him. It's happened to everybody, but sometimes you think you're over something, and then in that tension moment, it all comes back to the surface.
Yes, and this is whenever I think areas of conflict are whenever we have the best opportunity to grow together or the opportunity to be destructive. And there's just doing some research, there was a Russian physiologist that was studying the impact of words on the human body, and he discovered that calm and non-defensive spoken words actually have the ability to reduce heart rate and positively impact blood circulation. There's an impact. We can actually bring a source of calm to someone in the midst of stress or tension. Our words can be soothing. Now, words, like you can say it in the nicest way possible, you need to calm down. That's the wrong words. But it's like how non-defensive means you're not accusing, well, you did this to yourself, or it's like you can be an agent of peace in your spouse's life in sometimes their most stressful moments by just the words that we say. And to me, I love this because science, I love when science backs up the Bible. Proverbs 15:1 says, a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. And so science is showing that if she's upset, and my wife is dealing with something that, whether it's kids or whatever, I have the ability to be her calm in the middle of her storm. I can walk in and say, I love you, I'm here for you, what can I do to help? Encourage, you got this, I'll support you, and all of these words are building her up. Or I can walk in and throw napalm on the fire, blow it up, and now not only is she experiencing conflict in the one area, now we're having conflict in our marriage. And it's just sometimes what we say in those moments.
And as we've been studying, like he was pulling up all these studies that they've done and the impact of words. This is why it's so important to have a peace-filled home. Yep. Because even though kids, they're resilient, they bounce back, they whatever. But all the negativity, the strife, if you're in the middle of a marriage that's nothing but fighting and conflict, your kids are feeling all of that.
Absolutely.
And that's part of why we do what we do, is that everybody deserves a home of peace, a home of refuge, and a home of joy. And so how do we get you guys to communicate without it being that strife level? That's what we're trying to do, right? But it is impacting those kids. It is impacting your spouse. And you can think, that doesn't bother me. Yes, it does. Words matter.
Yeah, and there's another study, and I love combining the studies with the Bible. Again, I think it just reinforces all of this. So that way you also know this isn't just our opinion, that there's scientific and biblical foundations for this. But there was another study by two people, Newberg and Wallman. It talks about that positive words actually promote cognitive functioning, meaning it helps someone think clearly and operate at their best. Those positive words of encouragement. Hey, you got this. You can do this. I know it seems scary, but I'm supporting you. You can do all things through Christ. All of those things. Flip it around. Toxic, harmful, critical words actually cause the part of the brain to react like stress. Those hormones that it releases impair cognitive thinking. You actually can perpetuate a struggle where your spouse is struggling through something, trying to figure it out. And if you walk in and you're critical, like, I can't believe you haven't figured this out. What's wrong with you? Those words are literally cursing your spouse.
Yeah.
And it's shutting down the cognitive ability they need to fight through these and figure this stuff out. And so, like I said, you can perpetuate the problem, or you can speak life to it. You can encourage it. You can help them through it. You can sometimes you're pushing from the back or dragging from the front, but it's like, hey, you got this. And if I have to carry you through part of it, that's fine. Or no matter what. And it helps them. Their thinking is impacted, good, bad, and ugly.
And I'm a high capacity person. I like to work. I'm not one that likes to sit idle. But I am also one that if you are yelling at me or I'm under super high stress, I do completely shut down. So I completely relate with this, because if it's super high stress, somebody yelling and all the chaos, my brain literally does not work. Like, I cannot function. And there's people wired that way. Some do better than others. I just completely shut down altogether.
No, and Proverbs 18:21 says the tongue has the power of life and death. And in those situations, literally, like, your words have the ability to build up or tear down. You can destroy your marriage, or you could, make your spouse think they're almost bulletproof by those words that you say. And sometimes rarely is it the moments of peace that this is an issue.
Right.
It's those areas of conflict, those areas of tension, those moments whenever your spouse is maybe not at their best, or they're fighting through something, or they just made a mistake. Whenever your spouse makes a mistake that may have cost the family money, or all of this, or maybe they get fired from a job or whatever, those are very fragile moments in someone's life, and you can literally kick them when they're down and destroy their emotions and their self-esteem, or you can help them pick themselves back up. And this is interesting. Dr. Mark, I think it's pronounced Pagel or Pagel, talks about that your words actually are implanting thoughts in someone's mind. Now, she has the right to refuse my words, obviously, but what I'm saying to her are like seeds in her mind. And the more she thinks about it, and vice versa, if she says something to me, I'll think about those. Anyone ever re-rehearsed an argument or rethought over, and we meditate on those things, and that seed turns into a root. And you see that a lot of times with childhood trauma. Words that are spoken over a child at a young age will shape their confidence. I know people that are deeply insecure into their 30s, 40s, 50s because of words spoken by their parents. You can't do that. You're not smart enough. You'll never amount to anything. It has such an impact. And so we have to make sure that what kind of seeds are we planting in our spouse's heart, in our spouse's mind, with our words. Because I would never want to be the source of Heather not feeling like she can pursue her dreams because of an idle word that I said out of frustration or let something slip. It's damaging. There's so much at stake here. And so if I'm going to plant any sort of seeds in her heart, it's going to be that she can do anything that God puts on her heart. She's more than enough. I watch her, like, I love complimenting my wife. I love seeing her smile. I love her eyes light up whenever, but I look for areas to compliment. I saw her on the stage at church on Sunday, and she just has such a way of communicating. And I tell her that because I want her to accomplish her dreams and chase after those dreams. And I'm her biggest cheerleader. And so we have to just, like, again, go back to what are you painting in the landscape of your marriage by your words? And I think it's interesting that we can actually, we were just talking about this a few minutes ago, we can perpetuate struggles. So what I mean is, Heather says something to me that's harsh. I think about it and I let it become part of my thought process, and it goes down in my heart. And well, now my words starts matching her words, and so I've created this vicious cycle, and vice versa. If I said something like, hey, you look really goofy on stage, well, now all of a sudden she doesn't want to go on stage again.
No, I'd probably never go back.
But so I've implanted something into her heart and her mind that she's going to think about and feed on, and all of a sudden she's going to start saying, I can't be on stage again. So it can change her whole thought process based on idle words. And so, again, it goes back to speak life, speak hope, speak encouragement.
This goes for your kids. This goes for your marriage. Our kids, if we never tell them that they can't do something and you always tell them they can, they'll grow up thinking I can do whatever it is that I want to do. And that's the way we've tried to be with our kids,
Absolutely.
Hey, you want to do that? Great. Some of their dreams are really huge. Some of their dreams way outweigh our bank account. But we don't tell them that. We might say, hey, you're going to have to work hard, but we're behind you. We're going to support you the best we can, but you can do it. And so we're always trying to push our kids to go farther than what we did.
Yes.
Because we want them to be more successful than us. What parent doesn't want their kids to be more successful than them? And so we're always trying to push our kids to the next level. Like, hey, you can do this. Learn from our mistakes. We didn't do it this way. Now you have the opportunity to do it, and cheer them on and then watch them crush their goals. We have a kid in college. I'm watching her crush her goals, right? Because we've never told her that she can't. Yep. Anytime she's stressed, you can do this. You've got this. We quote scripture over her. We build her up. We, try to do the best we can in that way to always build them up with our words.
And another way of thinking about this is if it's a God-given dream, it's going to require faith, which means it's beyond our ability.
Right.
There's dreams that we have that are God dreams that I can't make happen, she can't make happen. And so we can curse our dreams by, we can never do this. Well, if you say that, guess what? You'll never do.
Right.
Go after your dreams. And so, I had a conversation with this as a pastor who's been married for over 40 years. And I asked him, what's one key to success? I'm looking for some quick antidote because I'm researching this for a school assignment too.
For marriage.
For marriage. Yeah. What's one thing for marriage success? And he looked at me and he goes, I don't have one thing, because you can't reduce marriage down to one thing. Marriage, it's a lifestyle. And your words are a lifestyle. How you talk to your spouse is the life. There's no off switch. I can't be super sweet to Heather on Mondays and then treat her like trash and say bad things, harsh things to her on Tuesday and then flip it back over on Wednesday. My daily interactions with her, my words have to be sweet. Because if I start getting harsh, she doesn't want to spend time with me. Who would?
Well, if he's cranky, I typically go shopping or go do something else with my time.
So then it costs me twice. I don't have time with her in my bank account.
Well, so be kind.
So, moral of the story, speak life. Especially whenever your spouse is vulnerable and they're in those rock bottom moments or they're in the middle of conflict. A gentle answer can turn away wrath. Harsh word can be napalm with catastrophic damage.
And we all know, your spouse. If I say this right now, it's going to really jack them up and tick them off. And you can either choose the wise way and keep it to yourself, or you can drop that, but your house is going to be filled with strife.
Yep.
And then you've hurt feelings, and then you have to try to repair wounds. And, so we all know the triggers. We all know the things to say and not to say. We're smart humans, right? But sometimes we choose the path of conflict. Yes,
absolutely. And when that does happen, be quick to forgive. But what I've noticed with her is when her eyes have that "you just hurt me" look, just because I said I'm sorry doesn't take that sting away. And that to me is more damaging than anything, and it's not worth it. There's not one idle word that is worth saying that to see that look of hurt in her eyes. And so my job is to protect her. And that includes, from my words whenever I'm emotionally upset, triggered, whatever you want to say it. So.
Yep. So speak life this week to your spouse, to your family, to your kids. Thanks for joining us. We're so excited that you were here. As always, we're a 501c3 and you can contribute to spreading the joy in people's homes through our website at ajoyfulfamily.com/give. We appreciate your support because that's how we get to do what we do. And so if this ministry has blessed you at all, that's how you can help give back to it and see it go farther.
And one thing with that, I just looked in the last 60 days, we've reached about 2 million people on Instagram, which is a lot of people. But we're getting more and more people asking us for scholarships, for counseling, to help them and stuff. And so whenever you support us, you're actually helping us provide. Not everyone can afford counseling,
right?
And so it helps us work with people so that they can get the help that their marriage needs.
Yeah. So you can be a part of that. It's a great thing to be a part of. We'll see you next time. Have a great night.